everyone. How's it going? This is Anderson.
Christian here.
And on this episode, we are going to take a deep dive into the power of the mind. How powerful is your mind, Christian?
The most powerful.
And we're going to delve into some of my personal experiences as far as like my little spiritual journey, I guess you could call it.
Okay.
Because again, it comes back to like the mind. So, turn on, tune out, drop in, buckle up. Because, no, we're not driving a car, but we're going to ride this wave. We ride this wave of weird. Get ready, because we're about to enter 111. What's up, Christian?
What's up, AK?
Here we are.
Surfing on this wave.
Yeah, it has been such a fun wave to surf on.
The tides are heavy.
What is on the agenda for this episode?
So tonight we thought we would talk about the power of the mind. How powerful your thoughts can be.
Okay. I mean, I always try to stay in a positive state, because positive thinking it's a real thing.
Yeah, I was going to note on, that kind of goes back to one of our earlier episodes on positivity,
Yeah, your thoughts are so powerful. I mean, not only just in terms of like, creating visual imagery, especially if you're a creative person, a visual person, but it's also powerful in how resilient it is when you need to be at your best, when your back's against the wall, when you want to explore, whether recreationally or naturally, like if you're into like smoking or any of the hallucinogenics, or if you partake in psilocybin.
It all starts with your mind.
It does, and your mind is just a really interesting thing.
Yeah, it creates, it destroys. Your thoughts really do control a lot of your actions.
When you have a bad day, you have control in how you respond to that. Because really a lot of the things, think of it like this: when you get into an argument with someone, for instance, like you say you get into an argument with your mom or your dad, and you like lived in those those thoughts, you're constantly just like making things worse, and like you're getting exhausted. Or no, that's a bad example. Like, for instance, when I used to have to do public speeches, like for school, my whole physiological part of my body, like I would just start to like have sweaty palms, heart would be racing, panting, just knowing that I had to go make a speech, because I was so petrified.
High anxiety.
Super high anxiety, but a lot of it stemmed from your thoughts and your mind, because I led my mind into a place of fear and like being put on the spotlight and made to feel like, I don't want to mess up because I don't want to be an embarrassment, that kind of thing. So your mind is really what like, makes you feel all those anxious things. You know what I mean? Like if instead you pictured yourself like, no, it's going to be fantastic. Like I'm going to go in there.
I'm going to kill it.
Yeah. And if I don't, it's okay. Like, you know what? I'm still alive.
That's why they say, I think, confidence is key. Perception. If you walk in that room and you do think like, I'm the shit, I'm like, I got this, like, funnily enough, like, that's what I don't know much about him, That Andrew Tate guy, have you?
Yeah, he's been going all around. Like
It's pretty viral right now.
Viral
right?
right now, but it's like it's really like his whole spiel is like, zero F's given.
Yeah.
Be real, be honest, whether it's gonna hurt somebody's feeling or not.
But I think like that's like the extreme version, because that's the kind of like mantra he has, like, I mean, from what I've seen, I don't know much about him, but from what I've seen, like I've seen a lot of negative stuff tied to him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's living that same mantra, like, I'm going to manifest these things into my life. I'm going to make this happen. Like nobody's better than me. I'm on top. I'm top dog. And in some ways that thinking can help you, but I think that extreme version can also be very toxic too.
Yeah, I think like for me, you have to be somewhat realistic, but unrealistic at the same time. Like, no one wants to say like you can't be the best at something.
Yeah.
But I feel like a part of us, we just have limiting self-belief. It comes back down to like how you view yourself, how you view your worth. It all starts with your mind. Like if you see yourself as like a successful person in all avenues of your life, I feel like you slowly walk or like live into that, like it becomes a part of you because you're constantly thinking about that. And so your thoughts start to change, because I know coming from like a very pessimistic kind of mindset in my early 20s, like I feel like now I've looked back and I see a stranger.
Yeah.
And, I used to be very self-conscious of my physical, my mental, like my creative, like I just didn't carry any confidence in anything I did. I just was always in my headspace.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. It always started in my head. Before I even tried anything, I'd always be like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like growing up, that was like some of the limiting beliefs that I had instilled, which was unfortunate. It always was like, oh, he's the overweight kid, like he can't do this or he can't do that. So I always was like, man, I'm never going to be this or that, and instead what I should have been doing was like, well, at least let me try.
Yeah.
Because
you're already stopping yourself before you're even starting.
Correct. Like I used to always think, man, I can't get into film school. I'll never do that, because you play the victim, or you'd always that's negative thinking. Like you're always finding a reason or an excuse for yourself to not find success.
Yeah.
But instead, if you do the opposite, which is you talk to yourself in a way that you would talk to somebody you love or somebody you cared about. If you do that for yourself, I feel like you start to believe it. And you do find value in yourself. Like it's taken so long to get to that point where you begin to see yourself how other people who believe in you see yourself. And it becomes like very refreshing to look back and be like, man, I've come a long way. Like I've had to go through a lot of stuff to get there, but you know what? I wouldn't give it back. I would want to do the same thing over, because that's how you learn and you grow.
That reminds me of a video I saw, I think last week. I forgot what the type of mirror is called, but have you seen that video? There's like a guy who like invented this mirror who like right now, if you were to look at yourself in the mirror, and say you try to like read, like, my shirt right now says the Golden Girls, right? And if I were to look at the mirror, it would appear backwards. So what this guy decided to do was make a mirror that shows your reflection to you as other people actually see you in real life, because your perception of yourself based on how mirrors operate is warped. So you're not really seeing who you are.
Yeah.
In, our our mirrors that we have. And like, it was actually a really interesting concept. Like, I had never thought about that, you know. And like the video that I watched, you know, he was interviewing this girl and she was looking at the mirror and he's like, what do you see? And she was just like, you could see like the light in her eyes. Like, she was just like, oh my God, like I've never, and I mean, I don't, like, who knows? Like, I think it looked like it was kind of like a circus trick kind of a thing, because I think when he was like showcasing the mirror, he was at some kind of an event. And then like another video that I saw on it, he was like at like some kind of a carnival or something. But, the concept that he had on the table was interesting, that like, we haven't really seen ourselves through other people's eyes, right? Because that's what the mirror is supposed to convey, is how other people see you. And, you know, we haven't fully seen ourselves yet. And I think that kind of touches on that same base.
Yeah, it's like also like you think the idea of like beauty, you know, like who is to say like you set the standard, or that person is like very attractive as opposed to that person. You know, I feel like society has kind of deemed it that way.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, how do you know, like, take any attractive person or somebody that you find attractive and ask them, like, how do you know that you're attractive? Is it because people tell you you're attractive, or is it because you inside are like, man, I look good, you know, like, because if that's the case, everybody can tell themselves that, you know what I mean? But is it something having to do with like you comparing yourself to somebody else, and you're like, well, I have features like that person who, you know, Chris Hemsworth, everybody talks about Thor, you know, everyone's like, man, he's, you know, but it's
God's
like,
work.
okay. But you know what I mean? Like at what point did, do you think he thinks like his whole life he's just been like, man, I'm God's gift to women. Christian. She's laughing because she's like, yes. But you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a lot of our like own self-worth and our own way we view ourselves is based off of how everybody else views us. Yeah. Like your family, you know, your family will tell you like, oh, you're so smart, you know, because growing up, that was my thing. Like, I was always around people telling me like, man, you're really good at listening. Like, you give really good advice. Like, you know, to be like, oh, you need to talk to somebody? Talk to my cousin. He's really good, you know, or my aunt, she would be like, you need to go into social work because you're really good, like, you know, with everybody. You're a people person. Yeah. But it's like you constantly are like, you know, hearing the same things over and over. And in the back of your mind, you start to believe it. So, like, what's not to say that some of the things that you think about over and over don't actually become manifested and become, like, a part of you. Yeah. Especially if you accept it. It'd be different if you don't accept it and you're just like, nah, these people are all crazy. Yeah. You know, like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, how do they even see that? You know, so I feel like that whole manifesting and law of attraction, like what you think you want and you can imagine and you feel, like slowly become like a reality. Yeah. You know,
that term manifestation.
Yeah, it's such a weird word because I always think like it's like an infestation.
That's not good.
Of like, you know, like your thoughts, you know, like manifestation is like the power, like you're infiltrating your headspace with all these thoughts, you know, and you're manifesting, you're basically thinking up so many things of like what you want that, you know, it's constantly in your headspace. Yeah. You know, it's the same concept. Like when something infests something, right? It's like full throttle, everything's in it, right? You know, you get an infestation of like ants in your pants. Yeah. You know, like it's just all there. Like it's the same, like in your thoughts, like you're constantly thinking good things or like things that you want. Over time, I feel like if it happens, it's gonna come to you. You know, like I can't give you like an exact example, but I feel like more so than not, the things that I think about start to like reveal themselves. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like being prepared and just having like the right door open, like say for instance like a job or like a project or a gig, you know, like you can't just be like, I want a gold piggy bank full of money in the front door, and it happens, you know. It might be something like, well, I think I'm going to be very prosperous and I'm going to have wealth, and I don't know how I'm going to get there, but it's going to happen. And over time, I feel like the other part of the work that you do, or doors will open, but you still have to be like prepared for that opportunity, you know?
Are manifestations close to, because like the word manifestation, like you mentioned it earlier, and you're right, it's a newer term. Not so much as a newer term, but it's become more popularized.
So like
in
I feel
the
like
last like 10 years.
Yeah, but I feel like that word just started to become like popularized again in the last like 3 years, especially during like you know, like pre-COVID. I'd say like 2019, because in the mid 2000s it was the law of attraction. You know, the law of attraction this, the law of attraction that. You're attracting, you know, what you think, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm sure there was a time where somebody else had a different term for it.
Yeah.
You know? But I feel like that's the new one, is like manifest your dreams. You know? That's become like the new buzzword.
Because that kind of reminds me of like, would that be close to like a dream board? You know, like a vision board?
Yeah, basically. I mean, those are some of the steps that because the whole thing is like, you're not just speaking something into existence. You're like not just speaking or visually making it like happen, but you're feeling it too.
Yeah.
Like they tell you, like you should be feeling like you got that brand new car, whatever it is, and you're driving it down the road to your fancy mansion on the hills, you know, like, and you see that and you live in it, you believe in it, and like your thoughts are that powerful to make them come true. It's almost like having a genie make your 3 wishes. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, the law of attraction, similar.
It's very similar. I mean, the whole Secret series was like huge in like the mid 2000s. You know, that lady Rhonda Byrne came out and she made a lot of money. Let's just say that off of that, because, you know, that was like, it was so coveted the way they marketed that whole thing. And, you know, once you go on Oprah, it's like the whole world hears you, you know? But I mean, the messaging was really key. You know, there's nothing I'd say negative about it. You know, you're basically learning to think more positively, think about the things that you want, and like really visualize what it would feel like to have it already. Because I feel like your subconscious picks up on those like little, you know, nuances, and like starts to be like, oh yeah, it starts to believe in it, you know? And then I can't say for sure that it like happens overnight, but I can say like over time, you know, like when I look back, I'm always thinking like, man, I don't recognize myself. Like I became somebody that I had hoped to have become, you know, when I was like in my early 20s. So if we look at it in that regard, then yeah, like I feel like I have, you know, kind of come into being who I was meant to be, who I wanted to be. Yeah. So, and some of the people that, you know, a lot of self-help books like Tony Robbins will talk about stuff like that. Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, like all those guys, it's all the same messaging, just like reformatted in their own words.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately it's the same messaging. Never just like, always kind of like living in imagining, because the power of like visualization and imagination is like super key.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I mean, it helps that we're creative people, you know, so we kind of have the edge. But it's not to say that not everybody's creative. Everybody is creative. They're just limiting self-belief, you know?
So I'm reading that the law of attraction is a new thought spiritual belief. And And then if we go into what New Thought is, it's a spiritual movement that was coalesced in the United States in the early 19th century. It was preceded by ancient thought, accumulated wisdom and philosophy from a variety of origins, such as ancient Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Chinese, so on and so forth, cultures and their related belief systems, primarily regarding the interaction between thought, belief, consciousness, and the human mind, and the effects of these within and beyond the human mind. But what I liked that I saw down here, New Thought holds that infinite intelligence, or God, is everywhere. Spirit is the totality of real things. True human selfhood is divine. Divine thought is a force for good. Sickness originates in the mind, and right thinking has a healing effect. And I think that's interesting because we're constantly talking about, and you especially, I think you kind of introduced it to me, was like the power of the mind and how it can heal you. You know, like as soon as I'm not feeling well in any kind of way, whether it's like, neck pain or, you're constantly like, Christian, listen to these tracks, listen to these, meditation tracks, because essentially you're trying to tell your body like, hey, stop feeling this way.
Yeah.
And then start feeling this way. You're trying to help fix itself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I swear by it because to me, I feel like that's been my edge, like I've injured myself pretty bad. Like, say like a decade ago, I injured my neck just from lifting weights. And I remember I woke up one morning and I couldn't turn my head. I couldn't look up or down. I just felt like my head was on like a toothpick, right? And it was just kind of like wobbling, and every little movement was just excruciating pain. And I was like, I can take medicine, which I did, but it really didn't help me tremendously. It wasn't until I completely like relaxed my entire body by like, listening to the meditation stuff and getting into like a completely like relaxed state. And I mean, the breathing stuff helped a lot as well with the meditation music. I feel like whenever I start to feel off, same thing. My thoughts, if I fart, if I start to like have a clouded thoughts, or like feeling envious or down or like self-deprecating or negative, I usually go straight to like asking myself like, why are you thinking like that? Are you okay? Like, I consciously will ask myself like, are you all right? Like, why do you feel like that? And I have to like answer, and I'm like, I don't know. I just feel so negative right now. So then I usually go and I'll do like a meditation, and sometimes it's because you're tired. You didn't get enough quality sleep, not just sleep, but like quality sleep. And big so difference. Like, you'll just feel like, you feel negative, like your thought is just so clouded. So that's kind of what the mind does. Like, it's that powerful, like, you go to sleep, you listen to like subliminals or affirmations, and like you repeatedly tell yourself like nice things. There's a track called like Ho'oponopono. It's like a Hawaiian thing where the message is like, I forgive you, I love you. And it's just repeatedly that same thing over and over. And it does a thing or two to your mind and your psyche, It's bizarre, but it works. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm literally like constantly just listening to like, nice music with affirmations. Because the power of belief is also there too. It's a part of your mind, like thinking the things that you want to have. And, I mean, we will be 100% honest. Like, it's not like it's like the cure all. It's not that's all you have to do. It's easy, like, I'm not going to say like I don't have bad days, or like I don't have bad things happen, but I will say that the way that I interpret those bad things is like how I have trained my mind to interpret them. So I might get into like a car issue, and instead of being like, man, this always happens, I'll say like, well, maybe I wasn't supposed to go to where I was supposed to go right now. You know, maybe I'm being redirected. Or I'll be like, hey, at least now I can get it fixed. And it could have been worse if, you know, like this one time, my car, it was a car problem. And I was like questioning whether I should just Uber to the location or drive my car. You remember that? So I was going to go film something for a friend.
Oh, okay.
And it was far. It was downtown. And I was like, man, 5 o'clock traffic is terrible. Should I just Uber or should I drive? And I really was like, I don't want to spend the money. I'd rather just drive so that way I can leave whenever too.
Yeah.
But my gut was like, nah, like just Uber. You're healthy. You're good. You can make that money to pay it. You know? So I Ubered and Ubered back home. Friend took care of the other half of the Uber for me, and I was like, thank you. You know, didn't expect it. And then the next day, my car didn't want to start.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine if I would have been out there and I was like stuck way down there? I would have had to pay way more to tow it back and then get it fixed. And so, I mean, you know, again, it's like the power of your thoughts in your mind. Like I was able to, instead of just going head first into like all this negative, you know, I mean, that's a different example because my car didn't break right off the bat, but my mindset would have been, you know, my mindset still was like grateful because I didn't have to, I didn't drive the car, you know, because that would have been really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, have you ever had experiences like that where you get so, you feed so into your like negative thoughts that like worse things start to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody has, you know, that's why they coined the term when it rains, it pours, you know. But the problem is like once you're, because I mean, I really do try to like not dwell in like negative thoughts, you know, but like once you have that one bad thing happen to you it doesn't have to be at the start of the day. It could be like in the middle of the day. You just can't help but like feel like, okay, what else could go wrong? And it's happened to me before. I mean, you know, I've been having like, you know, a few different issues lately, like especially with my car, you know, and I kind of feel like they've been back to back. Like I had like an engine issue, you know, and then I had like a flat tire, you know, shortly after that. And it's hard to not think that way, but the realization of it is like, what are you going to do about like you being negative or upset about it? Yeah. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to like make you feel any better, you know? You just have to like find a solution, you know, and
stay positive.
Stay positive, you know, figure out a way to fix it or, you know, because you staying in that like bad place in your head, it doesn't help anything, you know.
It's exhausting.
I was going to say, it just feels more draining than anything else because you're already having a bad moment. Like, why progress it and like turn it into like, you know, just a bad space for not just you, but the people around you, because your energy affects, you know, people who you either like interact with on a daily or maybe people that you live with, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, just because I had a, you know, messed up day doesn't mean I want to go and mess up your day, you know?
And bring the whole world down with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So. Because, you know, the funny thing is like, you know, going back to the beginning of the show, you know, talking about like meeting people or like, you know, how do you know you're an attractive person or whatever? A lot of the times is, I feel like you meet somebody's energy before you actually meet them.
Yeah, definitely.
So you walk into like a space where like people have like a warming vibe. You're like, you connect instantly, you know? And I can say that also because like if you carry that you attract that. You know, you walk into a place, you notice that people are gravitating towards you. You know, I've had moments where I'm like, why did that person just, you know, I get it pretty frequently now, but I'm always like, now I feel like I understand why. Like I carry like a good space in my head. Yeah. Like I'm always thinking like, okay, like, you know, just good thoughts. I'm not, I feel like I try not to carry like a dark cloud over me. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel people gravitate towards those who have like good energy, you know?
Let's talk about Neville Goddard.
Yeah, so Neville Goddard, I mean, you have a history of him, but for those that don't know, he kind of became like a popularized, I guess you'd just call him New Age, like a New Age self-help person, but he's long gone. Yeah. But he had a bunch of recordings where he kind of like, you know, covered the whole power of belief, power of visualization, the power of your thoughts, you know? Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like the grandfather of, you know, manifesting your destiny.
He's actually under that New Thought philosophy for sure. I hadn't heard of him until you mentioned him to me. And it's kind of interesting because he's not, I mean, I know you said New Age. I mean, I don't know what technically falls under New Age, but it says here that he was born in 1905 and he died in 1972. So that's, I think, a time period, you know, where you had a lot of like,
the hippies.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah. The free thinkers. The tree huggers. The potheads. Yeah. Acid trip, man.
And we see here that he was, in this article, perhaps the last century's most intellectually substantive and charismatic purveyor of the philosophy generally called New Thought. Okay. He wrote more than 10 books under the solitary pen named Neville, and he was a popular speaker on metaphysical themes until his death in 1972. But what we see here is he asserted with complete ease what many would find fantastical. Quote, "The human imagination is God, and our thoughts create our world in the most literal sense." Which is pretty cool.
That is.
It's very philosophical. His thought system influenced a wide range of spiritual thinkers and writers, from best-selling author Joseph Murray to mystical iconoclast Carlos Castaneda. I know you've heard him. I've heard you mention him before.
He's got a pretty crazy story. We'll touch on that on another episode.
It's a whole other episode, right? And then we see here, I wanted to read this because I thought this was pretty cool. So everything you see and experience, including other people, is the result of your own thoughts. This is coming from him. It's a result of your own thoughts and emotional states. Each of us dreams into existence an infinitude of realities and outcomes. When you realize this, Neville taught, you will discover yourself to be a slumbering branch of the Creator clothed in human form and at the helm of limitless possibilities.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe you thought me into existence to be like, hey, Christian.
Dude, have you ever thought...
Do this with your life.
Have you ever had the just like random thought that someone that you know or you're close to actually exists? Like, have you ever thought, like, I wonder if Christian is just a figment of my imagination?
She's not real. Or, she only exists like because like I thought like, hey, come, let's do this podcast. So then she's like, she's here. But when she exits the door, like she doesn't actually like there's nothing. Yeah. Because the only time that she exists is when I talk to her or think, you know, like
it just, this is so sidebar and I'm so sorry to go off topic, but it just kind of reminds me of like Fight Club. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, who is Tyler Durden? You know, like I've had those moments where I'm like,
who is your spirit animal?
yeah, like,
or spirit person?
is this person, like, is Anderson really Anderson, or is he one of my personalities that comes out into, you know, anyway, but I just thought of that right now when you were talking.
I mean, it's
about
the
that.
same thing when they say, like, you know, does a tree in a forest make a sound if there's nobody there to hear it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it? You know, like,
Yeah.
you'll never know.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like when I had that brain fart moment. We were driving somewhere and I looked out amongst the, you know, the urban landscape of Houston, and it just got like this thought. And I was like, those buildings are just filler buildings. Do you remember that? I was like, those aren't even like real businesses.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? I was
I
like,
know, you took me by surprise.
I was like, yeah. And I was like, who would like color their signs like neon green, pink, and like.
If you live in Houston, you'll know exactly what we're talking about when you're driving along the Beltway and you just see all these like empty looking buildings that are just like cookie cutter. It's like when you see like the cookie cutter like neighborhoods.
It's like a set. It doesn't look
Yeah.
like there's an actual business running.
Yeah.
So that's why it was like so weird. It's like Truman Show.
Yeah. Or like Pleasantville.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the world is like a set. This is too much.
Sidebar.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, back to manifestations. When did you kind of discover, you know, what it was to like manifest, or like, did you have like a moment in your life where you felt like you had to make a switch over to like positive thinking? I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
but
So like, I mean, around the same time, when I basically started, you know, positive thinking, that was around the time that I started to also understand, you know, law of attraction, like think it, grow it, be it,
yeah,
become rich, you know, like it's kind of around the same time. But I feel like for me anyways, everything that I think about, it slowly kind of presents itself in one way or another, whether it's next week, a year from now, 2 years from now.
yeah,
You know, I feel like it's almost silly because you're basically playing like make believe. You know what I mean? Like you're making yourself believe you're make believe. If
What?
that makes any sense.
No.
Like so you
Repeat.
make you basically are make believing what you want, and you're making yourself believe in it.
okay,
Whether or not like you, so like how we were taught when we were growing up, like when we were younger, is like, you know, oh yeah, you'll never be a rocket scientist. Never. That's just so, the bar is so set so high.
yeah,
Then you have another school of thought where it's like, you know, no, you could be whatever you want.
yeah,
You know, it's up to you, but you still have to, you know, put in some kind of effort or some form, right?
yeah,
But I feel like the ones who believe the first school of thought just automatically like, yeah, you're right. You know what? You're right.
I can't do
I'm
that.
never going to be able to
Yeah.
do that. So those are like the most dangerous words you can use, you know? Whereas the person that's like, you know, I'll at least try, you know, and you'll have opportunities that present themselves, and you never know.
And most times you surprise yourself, which is really funny. You really do. Like, oh, I never thought I could do that, you know? And then, like you said, those around you will be like, oh, I always knew you could do it, you know?
It's just the limiting self-belief that you kind of have been accustomed to.
Yeah.
You know, like if you grew up in a...
But I think that's such a, like, that's like, it's like drilled into us, right? I mean, like you go into, you know, the thought of like, you know, why have we been programmed since children, since childhood, to like get into this like 8 to 5 cycle, you know, to, you know, get used to going into your adulthood to continue that 8 to 5 cycle working for the man, Whereas like if they taught more, like limitless type of education, like, like I know like some parts of the world are straying away, right? Didn't you tell me that recently?
Yeah, there's a school out in the Netherlands that's dedicated to just letting students come to school when they feel like it.
Yeah.
And then partaking in any kind of classes that they find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And their success rate apparently is like through the roof.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are innovating or cultivating a school of like innovators and trendsetters and people that are solving like the world's problems.
Yeah.
Because they're like, if you don't want to come to school, that's your loss. You can be dumb all you want, it's up to you. But we're not forcing you to do any of that. I feel like here in the States, there's like money to be made.
Yeah.
So they're like, truancy, your parents are going to go to jail.
Yeah.
Like it's so bizarre that it's gotten to that point where, yeah, that forward thinking is kind of like, ooh, I wonder how, it's almost like an experiment.
Yeah.
And that experiment is starting to show that it's,
it's actually working.
it's working. Yeah. Like imagine if, I always tell everybody this. It's like, I'm my most creative probably midday or in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
I can't function in the morning, like
Yeah.
especially on like a creative level. Like, I mean, I you can,
Yeah. I mean, if you have to, right?
but you're
like,
not optimal.
Yeah.
It's not like the results that you definitely want.
And you know that about yourself. It's like when you talk to like people who train, like gym goers.
Yeah.
Like when your body is the most optimal. Like not everybody functions after 5 o'clock. I know like that's the for most people who have an 8 to 5, you kind of have to either do it after work or in the morning. But like I know like when I'm most energetic is like in the middle of the day, like 11 o'clock. And I know that because it trickles over into the weekend when, it's a Saturday and I'm not going to wake up, really early or whatever. Like, but I have the most energy and I'm more likely to go around like midday, and it's like, it's your body telling you like, we know, like what time is best to do this.
Yeah.
Just as, as when you're working, when you're being creative.
And that's the thing is like, I always felt like, imagine if you didn't have a time,
Yeah.
like to look at, to tell you like, oh shoot, it's time to eat. It's time to sleep. It's time to go to work, and you just listen to your body and you just like took it upon yourself how you felt. I feel like that's true freedom.
Yeah.
Like to be able to be like, you know what, I'm going to get well rested and then I'll start the day.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, I've done that morning grind. I worked at a donut shop for like half of my life, and that was like 3:30 in the morning. I'd be done with work at like noon or 1. It was not that cool.
Yeah.
Like I know people that love it, but maybe it's because they didn't do it like as early as I did. They just started to adopt it. So they found like, man, I have way more time to like get all these things done because I start so early, and I get it. It's like the change, the shift in the culture, like the hustle mentality, like you could sleep when you're dead, go grind, you can run off of like 3 to 4 hours of sleep. You can only do that for so long, I feel, because
it's not healthy for your brain either.
In a creative space, you'll reach burnout so fast.
Yeah.
I know because I've done it, and it's like you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to edit. You get irritable.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, that's why like you feel like you're almost forced when you have to go to work, like you're forced to get yourself out of bed when you're still half asleep.
Yeah.
You drink it's like this like perpetuating cycle. Like, I have sleep supplements that I take so then I can get quality sleep because that's important to me. But at the same time, it gets cut short because I have to wake up by this alarm clock to get to work on time. Then when I get to work, I'm still half asleep. So I have to have my caffeine to like jumpstart my body and my mind. And then
It's like they're doing this with each other.
Yeah.
They're just like tug of war.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that is the way, because I feel like if you wanted to see people's ultimate potential. You just kind of let them. I mean, some people need it, though. Some people absolutely need that structure, because then they'll just sleep all day.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, hey, you guys want to go hang out? And you're like, bro, it's like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it is. Yeah, you're right. I'm just starting my day.
Yeah.
You know, so I get it. Like, everybody's on, like, you know, some kind of structure. But no, I feel like how I viewed, like, my life a decade ago, it's kind of where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't like the whole wake up early thing, you know, because I did it for so many years, and I thought that it, you know, it felt like it was getting easier, you know, because I was doing it literally every day. But now that I've been out of that, it's like I can barely wake up by 7.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's so rough. It's so rough for me, especially because, like, I get a lot of, like, my creative flow in the evenings too. And when I get into that zone, it's like, man, I got to go to sleep now because I got to be up for work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a bummer, because to get into that state, sometimes it's really difficult. And when you're there, it's like, man, you're just making leaps and bounds of progress.
Yeah.
Then I look at my time and I'm like, oh, you know, like how we do it when we record the show, we'll be like, oh, what time? Oh, yeah. Got to, like, you know, get ready for work. So,
Yeah.
you know, unless we're recording on, like, the weekends or something, you know? So, yeah, no, manifestation. Don't manifest yourself into an 8 to 5. Look at, like, all the entrepreneurs that tell you to wake up at 4 a.m, take a nice shower, ice shower, not nice shower, and then go exercise, and then do your meditation. And I mean, it's cool. It's good. It's good advice.
I mean, it's interesting because everybody reacts to it differently. Like, when I used to, like, wake up at 4 a.m, it felt nice, like, because I would do that to get my workout in, because I didn't like going after work, because you'd have to deal with the after work crowd. And it felt nice accomplishing something so early in the day. It just changed your mindset.
Yeah.
You go back to mindset, right? Like, okay, I knocked that workout out. I feel strong. I feel confident. Let me go tackle everything else in my day, you know? So that feeling was really nice. I wish I could get back into it, but I'm getting older and it's getting harder. But, you know, it's a certain way, you know, but like you said, like, I also enjoy the days where I get to sleep in, you know, I feel like I'm well rested. Because on that other schedule, you know, you start to kind of, like, get tired at midday. I mean, you remember you were doing 2-a-days at one point, you know, and, you know, you felt really energized in the morning, and then, like, come midday, there was, like, that, like, little...
It wasn't even midday. It was more like 10:45. It'd still be considered the morning, you know, like, McDonald's had just stopped serving breakfast, and I would be like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know, like, I couldn't... it was good, though. I mean, overall, I feel like if I could go back to that, I would. It's just, you got to get back into that habit, you know? That's a big thing.
Just reprogramming yourself.
Yeah, reprogramming your mind, and then just finding joy in it, because you know, like, it's not good to do something just to do it. Sometimes you have to, you know. I usually have to do what I don't like to do in order to get good at it, you know, like, and then not, like, it won't be so hard anymore. Yeah. You know, but it takes a while. Like, I think it takes between 6 to 8 weeks to, like, retrain your subconscious mind. So when I would do those 2-a-days, like, the days that I would not do a 2-a-day,
you felt off.
So off. And I remember I would think, like, man, or then it would be, like, guilt. Yeah. I'd have, like, this layer of guilt, you know, for not having, like, gone in the morning or then in the evening. Because if I go in the morning, I'll be like, oh, man. By the time it's 5, I'm like, man, I'm kind of exhausted. Yeah. I want to go eat dinner. No, I don't. I should go train. No, I should, you know. Yeah. It was just like you know, an interesting time in my life. But that all came down again to, like, how fortified I made my mind. Yep. You know, and I feel like, yeah, you get older, it is so tough. It's so tough to get back into, like, those good habits. You know, I feel like I always feel more lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, like, you would think, like, just do it, just just crash course it, do it, and then you'll get back into feeling that way, and then you'll have that energy again.
Yeah.
You know, and that's this, like, I call it a sacrifice, but it's not. You know, it's just stop making excuses.
I think, but it also, I mean, because I want to give you some credit, Anderson, because it also depends on like how full your plate is. You know what I mean? Like, and I know you've seen that. Like when you go ham on your physical goals, you like that's your priority, and then like what happens? Like
All my creative stuff.
It kind of takes like a side, you know. But then vice versa, when you're like ham on your freelancing
Thank you for noticing.
and your, you know, your gigs, like, you know, you can't, but it's because you're so burnt, you know, because like you said, you're literally staying up hella late to finish working on whatever it is you're working on. And you still have your regular 8 to 5 that you got to go to, you know, and it's just, you should give yourself some credit because like, it's not easy. You can't put everything in 24 hours, you know, as much like, and we really don't even have a full 24 hours. Like I know people will like fight you on that and be like, no, you have 24 hours to do whatever the hell you want. No, you don't, because your body still needs to rest.
Yeah.
Honestly, like for brain development and
not only that, but
just to stay healthy.
Yeah. Your immunity, you know,
Yeah.
that's the tricky thing. And then you don't want to go around like being irritable.
No,
it's like the worst because nobody needs to get, you know,
yeah,
you know, you taking it out on somebody because you're lacking sleep.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's true. Like I always feel like it's either one or the other, and I've been trying to find that balance for years, and it's just so difficult.
Yeah,
you know, like maybe if I was in a different career, it might be like more manageable, but like being creative is like there is no time schedule to be creative. That's the problem. Like I can't be like, okay, 9:00, let's start editing. I do, but you know what I mean? Like where I'm like, I appreciate every bit of it, where I'm like, I enjoy this. This is what I live for.
Yeah.
You know, that's that moment, that feeling, like I wish I could have it all the time. It's like that ebb and flow of like that creative juice, you know? And some days I'm like, I don't want to edit. I don't want to touch a camera, you know? Like I don't like, and that's when I know like you got to chill.
Yeah.
Because I've done that whole grind thing. Do you remember where I would tell you like, I have all the time and I don't get anything done. But then when I have no time, dang, I am like on fire. Yeah, when my back's up against the wall, it's just like, I will have like, I remember 2017, I was like every weekend there was a shoot, and like every day after work, after the gym, it was like editing. Yeah. And you'd be like, oh, did you see that show? I'd be like, what show? It'd be like that for like months. Yeah. And I'd be like, man, I feel like I don't watch anything. And all I've been doing is just like grinding it out, you know?
But you saw a lot of success that year.
I did. And then not only that, but like I grew a lot creatively, you know? Like I felt like my eye was like very trained, you know? So it was worth it. I mean, sometimes you just got to go through that, you know?
It's also just prioritizing, you know, learning how to shift things around. But that's where it all starts, though, is in your mind, you know, trying to figure out what goal it is that you're after at that particular time in your life. Because your goals shift, you know, throughout your life. They're not always going to be the same. I mean,
what do you feel like if you could have everything you wanted in the next year, what does your next year look like for you?
Just honestly self-sustainable, you know, not relying on others for, you know, different, you know, you go to people for different things, different needs. And I think I'm trying to do a lot of like self-discovery, you know, and see how far I can push myself, you know, that I think that's my goal for next year is I'm trying to find it within myself to fulfill whatever needs I have at that time, you know, whether it's financially or, you know, career-wise or even just emotionally, you know. I think that's my goal for next year.
But see, the thing is, the difference in like saying generic things, that's where like this whole like manifesting comes into play. Like you have to be very specific. You have to be you have to know and believe it already.
Yeah.
Because when we say things like that, that's why like a lot of New Year's resolutions, you know, you're like, what's your resolution? Oh, it's to do this. It never like fulfills because you got so trained into saying like, this is what I want to do. This is what, you know, I want to be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen because you haven't visualized it.
Yeah.
You just put out like a, that sounds nice. You know, I want a red car, maybe a new car, maybe, you know, instead of like, damn, next year that Bugatti Veyron. I'm going to have my own TV network. I'm going to have 3 houses, beautiful homes.
Let's make some vision boards, Anderson.
Yeah, you know,
let's go get some magazines and
I'm
cut
gonna
out
have like $30 million in my bank account. I'm gonna travel the world. You know, like you have to be extremely detailed.
No, I'm serious. Let's make some vision boards.
Yeah, I mean,
there's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if anybody watches that show, but it's so funny. They like cut out all these pictures and they're like doing their thing. And then at the end of it, they're like, that didn't work. But you know, it's just, it's a cool thought though. Cause you're right. You have to be very specific. You have to have intention. And I know right now I spoke very vaguely, but it's just because I don't want to go into too many personal details, you know? But yeah, no, like
her
on your
love
own.
life's gonna have Chris Hemsworth. She doesn't know how. But she's gonna be his arm. Her.
God's work.
You're gonna. He's gonna take you on a red carpet to Extraction 2. Boom. There you go.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna manifest that for you. We don't know how it's gonna happen, guys. If you're listening, Christian is going to go.
He's married. I love his wife. They're so cute
okay. Well,
together.
let's pick somebody else that's not married.
His doppelganger who's single.
You wanna?
Yeah, but if you guys have any thoughts on this, on the power of mindset, manifestations, let us know. Reach out to us. We are on all socials: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagrams. At enter ENTER, the number 1, and then 11 ELEVEN. We'd love to hear from you, and you know, give us a shout.
Look, we manifested this podcast.
We really did. I mean, it took a little while, but we definitely manifested.
No, it didn't take a little while. It happened overnight. It literally happened overnight.
Yeah.
And I say that because we never really were specific in what we're gonna do. We just talked in the sense of like, yeah, that'd be cool. But then we'd always be like, but what do we talk about? You know, and now it's like when we got down to it, it became an overnight thing because we're like, this is exactly what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Don't forget to make your vision boards.
Bye.
Bye.